Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. Today's a Saturday. It's actually late Saturday night, around 10:15 as I record this. And I'm just coming home from what is affectionately known as GlenCon. We actually have refrigerator magnets showing such. I will probably show it tomorrow on the live stream. What live stream on Sunday? Yes, Gamers Health tomorrow at 8 p.m. We pushed it off of Saturday because we had what we're calling is GlenCon. And today, Glenn ran two games out in Long Island for Jason and Jason's friends. And the first game was Astonishing, oh, sorry, Hyperborea, no longer Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. I know it's a mouthful. And I've owned all three editions and I've read the rules, but I haven't read them in a while. Never ran it and haven't played it until today. It was a blast. It's a really strong system, and it gives you a lot of flexibility in choosing your character class. Yeah, there's no multi-classing. There's only technically one race, but there's different cultures to that race. But works out really well. But the second game that Glenn ran was Ghostbusters, and in some ways, Ghostbusters mechanics are similar, in some ways, to the new Paranoia game, in that you have not like I don't know what you call it, a wild die, a trump die, or whatever. You have the ghost die, and I have a actually. I no longer have my original Ghostbusters box set, but I did buy one on eBay a couple of months back. Didn't have the ghost die. The ghost dies are very hard to find. They're pretty pricey, but Ghostbusters was the second session, which was run after we had our dinner barbecue. And Rachel's been playing RPGs now for a decade, but she only plays at conventions, right? She only plays at pretty much one off, not a campaign, and she enjoyed Hyperborea. She was like, that was a really fun system. And Ghostbusters, I was like, listen, all you need to know is you gotta have D6s. It's like, what? D6s, and you have the one ghost die, which is either the ghost die, or in my case, it was my red gem die. I was like, I declared that as my ghost die. If it came up as a six, then something untoward happened. Now, Rach has been wanting me to run Call of Cthulhu, and I may still do that this month if I can squeeze it in, or early next month. With the whole idea of Halloween and the fall weather and all that stuff. But Ghostbusters was tonight's October/ Halloween style game, and it fit really, really well. Now, Glenn was running a scenario written by Tim Snyder. I don't believe it's an official scenario, but anything that Tim writes might as well be official. He made some unofficial drinking dice cards one year and sent them to me. Awesome. So, this was essentially Rachel's introduction to horror RPGs, and I think it worked better as an introduction to it than straight up jumping into Call of Cthulhu. And why do I say that? Well, first off, it's the Ghostbusters franchise, right? Whether you like the recent movies or you don't like the recent movies, if you're from my age group or younger, you've probably seen the first movie or two, and it was humor, but it had some quasi horror. Horror. It was kind of camp, but it still had some elements of horror to it. And I think that works well as an introduction. It also works well as an introduction to RPGs in general. And what do I say there? It's a very simple system. It is a system that later morphed into the Star Wars D6 system, and that morphed into the Open D6 system, which is morphed into Mini 6, and there's an Open D6 second edition coming out. I think I backed the Kickstarter. Um, so you can see with Ghostbusters where it all started. Now, again, I bought my copy on eBay. I'm sure you can find on the interwebs material for the game floating around. But if you want to introduce people to the concept of RPGs and you want it to be light and you want it to be something that they can feel comfortable with and grasp quickly, Ghostbusters is it. And it should have been, I don't know if it was fully billed that way when it released back in the 80s, but it should have been. It should have been a lot huger than it was because it is something that people, normals, normies, can relate to. And it's not complicated. And it's a lot of fun. The, the material lends itself to having a good time. And at the same time, you can throw those horror elements into it. You can throw so theoretically, the slasher into it. The otherworldly, you could go darker than the actual default material if you wanted to. But I would say, as an introduction, you make it as much like the original Ghostbusters in feel as you can, because then your players will get a feel for it. Everybody, listen, we sat at the table, and there was a bunch of people in their 50s, and everybody's like, and I think Glenn and I are the only ones who had ever played Ghostbusters before, and for me, that was back what 35, 40 years ago, and everybody's like, "Oh, all right, we got the traps, right? And we got the echo guns. I can't remember what the hell they're called. I said, don't cross the streams. You're cracking those jokes. Oh, we got what kind of vehicle? Oh, our headquarters an was an old abandoned bakery. So it's like, what was our vehicle? As opposed to being an ambulance, ours was a bread truck. Perfect. People can visualize that, and that's what you want for somebody's first or early RPG experiences. You don't want them thinking that it's the game. They just want them to thinking that they're having fun. They're enjoying something that they feel comfortable with. And I think this is it. So I think it's a great, if you want to introduce family members or friends to RPGs, find a copy of Ghostbusters. I swear to God, you can create characters in 10 minutes or less, probably less. You can explain the rules real quickly and they can jump into it. I think that's where the fun is. And again, October, November, right? The months of horror. Why not? Try it. Uh, I'm not going to point you to where you can find this, but you can find physical copies, I know, on eBay. If you're not worried about the condition of the box, they aren't too expensive. But you're not going to get the ghost dice. Not without paying for them, seriously. Uh, but give it a try. I think, and Glenn, by the way, Glenn House, amazing DM, but especially when he plays something that is like Ghostbusters or Toon, even Gangbusters, he just really excels at those games. So thank you, Glenn. Thank you to the group that we played with today. You guys were all awesome, guys and gals. On that note, there's links on the bottom of the screen. This is how you support the channel. And there's also a voicemail. And it's an international voicemail. It's an online voicemail. SpeakPipe. Speakpipe.com/tavern chat. You can leave a message. I check that every 2 or 3 days. So I listen to them all. And I'm going to try to get some of them up on the air. All right, folks. On that note, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. I'll catch you all later. Be good.